Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Meaningful Conversations, where the goal here is to have a conversation that, we may not be typically be having at home with our friends, with our family. These conversations truly are chats that can change your life, and that's what they're meant to do. How so? We want to have discussions about things that are positive, that bring joy and peace and love into the world, but especially into our lives, starting from the starting from right now. We want to bring these discussions to you because we know that you're looking for something and we may have that answer. It may be that one thing that you hear today that can be the difference, make the difference in your life and that of somebody else's. So for those of you who are new, I'm Denise Stegall. I'm the CEO and curator at livinghealthylist.com and your host here of Meaningful Conversations. And I'm really excited to talk to my two guests today, Amy Stevens, who is a Feng Shui specialist. She specializes in the Western school of Feng Shui, and she is also an interior designer. So it'll be really exciting to talk to her about some things that she and I have been talking about offline. And then also Cawley, who is a certified professional organizer. And her business is called Simplify You, because let's be real, we need life to be simpler. We need it to be energetic. We need things to flow. And sometimes we kind of get stuck in whether it's in a routine or what it may be, whatever it may be, and you're just stuck. And we just sometimes need that little push. And so today we're here to provide you with some tips, strategies, and that little push you need to get things moving forward. So welcome, Amy and Lee. What I like to do is I'll have each of you tell us, who you are, rather than read your bio, which, can be kind of boring, like, I'll just read this paper. I want to hear from the source, who are you? What are you about? And how did you get to where you are today, helping your clients? Amy, you're on my left-hand side, so we'll start with you.
Wonderful. Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. And this is the who am I conversation. I wear multiple hats, so I am multifaceted entrepreneur, and I really work with all things energy. So my background is interior design. I started studying Feng Shui because I was doing healthcare design and nursing homes and hospitals, and who doesn't really hate going into those locations? And so from there, my stressful design job got me into teaching yoga. Taking yoga first, teaching for 25 years now, and all things energy healing, and how we encompass the energy within us and surrounding us.
I love it. Well, I know we're here to talk Feng Shui and organization, but we may have, a little bit of a conversation about some yoga tips as well. So, Lee, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me. And so I am, as you mentioned, a certified professional organizer. There are actually fewer than 400 of us worldwide, so that's something I'm really proud of. And I have been organizing residentially for 20 years now. So I call myself an organizing expert and educator, and it is my passion to teach people. So now I'm transitioning to doing online courses, and I've actually taught people in 5 continents now, which is wonderful because it spreads the message so much farther than somebody I could drive to or fly to. So yeah, I'm a empty nester. My daughter lives in London, and I'm just loving that this whole online community, that we can share our knowledge and excitement about what we do with people around the world. And thank you so much for having these conversations.
Oh, thank you for being here. This is great. It's always fun to meet new people and learn, different perspectives. And I think that's really what these meaningful conversations do for people is, we kind of all get in a, I hate to say routine, but I guess in a routine, this is how we do things. This is how we've always done things. And, even if we just do something a little different, it could, how great that could be. And those are the perspectives that we need to kind of open our minds to. When I say these chats can change your life, I really mean that, because I know it's happened for me. every time I have one of these conversations, something new pops into my life that just energizes. Ooh, that's part of our conversation today. That just energizes me personally, professionally, and sometimes physically and emotionally as well. So our actual topic today is titled Simplicity Unleashed, Harnessing the Power of Organization for a Tranquil and Efficient Space. So I'd like for both of you to kind of tell me, based on that title, kind of what does that mean to you? Like, how do you work with your clients? Like, how would that affect the way you work with your clients? And then we'll get into like some juicy stuff. Amy?
Cawley, you want, well, okay, I'll go first.
Sorry, I was looking at you.
So as far as how I work with my clients, what's really been great over technology through the last few years, when I used to go into people's homes and it was just more locally based, I would walk around the space and so forth. Now I have the opportunity that they take me on a tour of their home using their phones or their tablets, and they walk me around through their space, and I can easily pick up on things that may seem stagnant, or there's a little bit of a blockage that's taking place in their physical space. And then I also have them take me outside. I want to see what it looks like standing outside looking at the home, or even their office space. That's something else that I've done quite a bit of as well. So the joys of virtual conversations, we have this now as an opportunity.
Absolutely. And we'll dig a little deeper into the office space in a little bit. Cindy, how about you? How does that, idea of the organization creating tranquil and efficient space kind of resonate with you?
Right. So simplicity unleashed, right? So I think that so often, at least in my world, people want to complicate things. And I come across a lot of people who are perfectionists. And because, my motto is perfect, good and done is better than perfect and none. And we're never going to get to perfection. And so often with my clients or my students, they are A+ kind of people, right? They are super well educated, master's degrees and doctorate degrees, unbelievably creative. These are high achieving, mostly women, but some men, but high achievers. And so they want to do everything. They want an A+, gold star. And I often say, hey, listen, it's better to get a B+ and get it done than try to achieve something that's not possible. So that to me simplifies things a lot for people. If I'm like, your B+ effort, B effort is good enough for me, because that means you're going to make progress, right? Slow progress is still progress. And so I think people overcomplicate things. So that to me is how this resonates, because that's exactly right. I've named my business Simplify You, precisely that, right? That's who we are, that's what we do. And, I just did a video that's going to go up soon about my own drawer. And I'm like, I don't fold my underwear. I ain't got that kind of time. My underwear, my underwear doesn't wrinkle. It all is exactly the same. I throw them in a bin in my drawer, and I can get my underwear out. That's not where I choose to spend the next precious years of my life, right? So that's kind of what I encourage people to do. And they love to hear, oh, an organizer and you don't fold? I'm like, not if I don't have to. So
I love it. So a couple of things that you said really resonated. One, I'm married to a high achiever, perfectionist, Harvard grad, Columbia Medical School, that kind of guy. And he's brilliant. It blows my mind. And he's very he compartmentalizes things, lots of things, except apparently his office. And sometimes the office is, there's a pile in the kitchen and there's a pile here. And it's so funny because he'll go through periods where it's like you said, it's kind of all or nothing. And so it'll be interesting to hear some tips on how to get him to kind of just those little steps. So that'll be interesting. But the other thing that you said about the underwear drawer, and I'm laughing because as I was folding laundry last night, because we just came back from a 10-day vacation, and here I am folding my underwear to put in the drawer, except I put them in the drawer's overflowing. So what happens? I just throw them in. Like,
Right.
what's the point of doing that?
Yeah.
So
So I just changed your life. I'm going to say, right?
I love it. I feel that validated. But again, and to bring the word energy into this, we're talking, simplifying and, our space. So Amy, I'd like to pull you in, and let's talk about, how energy in our homes, really can affect how we, move, function, feel. I'm starting to sound like a doctor. Feel, function, and what's the other one? Feel, function, and survive, or something.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I often ask clients when they reach out to me, have you had a guest that's been here, or is there a life change that has occurred? So sometimes what happens is that energy can get stagnant because you've brought home something. So is it that you work outside the office or outside the home, or do you meet with clients at your home? Do you have guests on a regular basis? Is there something that just feels a little funky, a little off? And if that's the case, maybe there's been a divorce, maybe there's been empty nest, and it's, you just need to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's many opportunities to kind of check in on, why do you feel the way you feel? Why are you reaching out? Because there has been some kind of life change or circumstance that has you acknowledging something has shifted within your space. And so when you have that kind of approach, then understanding what the next steps are. And oftentimes what I do with clients who, it's usually the women who reach out to me who have had some kind of situation come up within their married life, and they're getting divorced or separated, and we'll have a dance party. It sounds crazy, but if you cannot physically move yourself because you feel stagnant, it's hard to get the energy around you to start to move. So oftentimes dancing is not their first situation that they want to dive into. And so what we'll do is we'll clap. And I find that oftentimes it starts out really subtle. And then we build up, and then we build up a little bit more, and then we find the right music to play and to dance. And so getting that energy moving around, and I find that that's often a good starting point for couples I work with, or even just one individual that I work with in their space. So it's the understanding about what energy is, because when you feel off in your space, that's energy. So how you can clean it out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've actually organized because somebody wanted to work with a Feng Shui person. And that person said, your home is too cluttered for me to even get started with you. And so she worked with me, and then she worked with a specialist. And, I think there's so much to it. And Amy, so it fascinates me. And I think that I haven't studied, but I've, picked up a few tips. And I think, once someone said, in a bedroom, you should only have photographs of your partner if you are partnered, not pictures of your kids or pictures of your in-laws, because you don't want those eyes looking down at the bed where you're supposed to be intimate, right? And that made so much sense to me. And what was the other thing? They said, if in a bedroom, paired things, if you're a paired person, so symmetry, is there some validity to that? I've been married for over 31 years, and I took that advice, so I'd say it works. What do you think, Amy?
Absolutely. So from the design perspective, the visual eye, when you look at a bed, the visual eye prefers symmetry. So you want a nightstand on each side. You want a lamp on each side. You want to be able to have that bit of balance. And then, yes, absolutely. I am a firm believer that photos, things that are in the bedroom should not be of the entire family. It should be maybe of if having photos of yourself in your bedroom doesn't feel right either, maybe it's a vacation location, an actual location as a backdrop to, either over your headboard if you don't have like a solid headboard, if it's a variety of vacation spaces that you've been to, whether it was your honeymoon or family, but not have the actual family in it. It's just that memory of being in that space together. And so that opportunity to be able to connect is very important to enjoy the space together. I did, this was very interesting to me. I did a couple who, gosh, I think they had been married 45 years at the time frame that I redid their bedroom. And they were actually looking to have this remodel done on a budget. And they wanted orange in their bedroom. And I was just blown away because it's a very hot color. And we live in the desert. I'm in Arizona. And so this hot color in their bedroom, I was like, I didn't want to get too personal, but finally I just said, I was kind of joking. I said, so you looking to spice things up? And so it brought up this awareness to them that they were trying, I guess, technically to spice things up in this next part of their life. But I really recommended to them to not paint the entire bedroom orange.
Right.
That is, from an energy standpoint, that does tap into our sexual chakra location. And so there was just a lot going on behind the scenes of this conversation. And when I finally just jokingly brought it up, it was a nice little relief. And then it brought up a new conversation for them. So, there are times that I play therapist, and I'm sure you have that too, Cawley, where you pull in that psychology piece into the conversation, and it's needed because there's this underlying part that is not being expressed, maybe within the couple, but in the back of their minds, it's happening.
Yeah.
Interesting. The idea of the eyes, and it's funny. So when I moved here to my house, my husband had built this house 5 years before I met him. So I kind of came into a home that was pretty much already furnished.
Mhm.
And Mark has he's a real history buff. He's from Texas. So there are two pictures of ex-presidents on one little area. A couple of years in after we got married, I came home from visiting my family, and there are beautiful portraits of these American Indians that were done by, I forget, they were in a book, they beautiful paintings that were done by this famous guy. And they're in my room, my bedroom. And so it's always been interesting because I'm always looking at them like, you're right. There's definitely a weird energy there, Amy. And so I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think there are times when we know something's not quite right, whether it's, it's something's too cluttered, or, the energy is off, or whatever it might be. I think we know, we just don't know what it is that is kind of bothering us. So that was interesting.
I almost feel like those Indian Native American should be out in your hallway, like maybe watching your bedroom door, protecting you versus in your bedroom. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. He's, have that conversation around protection. That was exactly my first thought too, Cawley. And maybe even closer towards the front door, like not not looking at the sides of the door, but straight on. So if there's a wall towards your front door to your home, that it's almost like they would be looking straight out to the front. Yeah, having those unidentifiable eyes in your space,
Some of them are
that's
kind of scary looking.
that's something that's of interest too. One thing in my training over 20 years ago, a conversation came up within the training that the woman wanted to be in a relationship, and she had heard this piece about pears. Well, she thought it was actual pears, the fruit. And so she started placing fruit side by side, pears
I love it.
within
Did it
her
work?
space. And so it did ultimately work, but it goes in. So what is your intention?
Right.
And so understanding that you don't have to necessarily have pairs of fruit next to each other to draw in a another person. So that would be another opportunity. So
It's funny. Well, hopefully not, because my fruit bowl's a mess right now. There's all sorts. There's that one big bowl of everything in there. So I don't know what that would bring to me if that was my intention.
So I do think that this looking at the eyes in your bedroom could be a life-changing, because sleep is so important, right? Deep sleep. Oh, I have a funny story I think you'll both love. So again, I know so very little about this, but I do understand that if it's at all possible to keep the underneath your bed free for the energy to flow while you're sleeping. So I had a wonderful client, lovely family, and we were doing the bedroom. And I looked under the bed. I'm like, what's this? Oh, she said, that's the collection of samurai swords. What? She's like, yeah, we keep them here because we don't want the kids to, my husband collects them, and, they're, nearly 6 feet long. And where else are we going to put them? And I'm thinking, well, no wonder you're not sleeping deeply. You're sleeping above samurai swords. And so she had a linen closet, a 6 foot wide linen closet with shelves. And I said, and limited storage. I'm like, can we move kind of the off-season comforters, the samurai swords, the beach towels, and just put other linens under the bed. So at least you're sleeping above something kind of soft. And then we can put a lock on the linen closet door so the kids won't get to the, swords. And it just never occurred to her. She's like, I needed someplace long. The only place I could think was under my bed. So we did the switch, got the lock, and lo and behold, they're sleeping better, right? But like, that was to me a crazy thing, but it just shows that, moving things around. Oh, Amy, all my clients always tuck things into corners. Can you talk about corners?
yeah, we want to keep things moving in corners. So we don't want to have too much stagnation taking place. And especially think of it this way, because oftentimes what people do, they'll have a tall vase with maybe some flowers or sticks or whatever. Maybe it's just the empty vase. Think of it as, let's just call it like a wind that comes into your space, and it just kind of goes around, and then it finds this hole in the vase, and then it just goes down. And it just kind of resides there. It doesn't move. It doesn't have any opportunity to get out. It just goes right into that base. If you have something like that and you need to put a lid on it or cover it somehow, or, I've even seen cats go into large vases and kind of stir around a little bit, and then they shoot up and out of the vase. So, that can happen as well. And they're giving you your own little energetic cleanse there in addition. But understanding that you don't want a lot of that extra clutter sitting around and just kind of taking up space. It's okay that there's open space. And I think that that is one thing that a lot of people struggle with, is that, oh, I can't have, I've got to fill every area. Oftentimes it can be incredibly overwhelming. And even what you fill in that space. So I know for myself that nature feeds my soul, but I cannot be in a space like a log cabin for a long period of time, because my energy just starts slowing down. I almost become like molasses, and I just sleep all the time. And so understanding the elements that surround us as well. So there's a difference between feeding your soul and then having too much.
Right.
It's interesting. My sister and my mom live in an area in New Jersey that's really wooded and dark. And it's interesting you say that, because whenever I'm there, after a few days, I feel heavy. Like I'm tired, like I always want to take a nap. And I'm not a nap person. But by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, oh my God, I need a nap, because there's not enough light and not enough to me, energy. And it's interesting, because thinking about that now with my niece and my nephew going through school, when they were doing homework at home in the evening, when it was still light outside, but it was dark in the house, I could just see their energy just kind of fading. And so that's interesting. So one of the things I always would say, I'm like, you guys need more lights. I'm the person, I was always turning more lights on. So that is an interesting a tidbit there. I would not have I would not have connected it with the fact that it was, log cabin and that's that area and really dark. That's funny. So I'd love to Celie, one of the things we're talking about, the energy and organizing and space and all of that. When you work with your clients, when you're organizing, obviously we talked about, putting things in a space. When it comes to like this concept of minimalization, like everyone we want to be a minimalist. Bring that into the conversation, if you would.
So, I mean, I think that this is really, everyone has their own comfort level. And I think speaking to what Amy was talking about, is kind of like surrounding yourself with what feeds you. So I have plenty of people who are maximalists, right? They want color and pattern and texture and, all the, vases and glasses and metal, all shiny things, whatever it is. But to me, that's fine if that is what feeds your soul. That doesn't feed my soul. But organization, the way I define being organized is really knowing where everything is, knowing where to find what you need when you need it, trusting that you can find what you need when you need it, and knowing that you don't have too much or that you're lacking, right? Some people are so, focused on being a minimalist that they've only got one mug. Then, they've got 2 friends come over. What do you have to bring your own mug? It's so I think that it's finding that balance, right? And I think this is what Feng Shui is about. It's all about balance and finding your own personal balance. So I agree. I don't think that you can be cluttered and be at peace and simplified. I think you can have a lot of things, of beautiful things, if that's what you want, that feed your soul and make you happy. But I wouldn't describe it as clutter. I describe it as a maximalist. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, it's collections.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think is often that conversation about, okay, what if instead of having the entire collection out, maybe half the year you have half the collection out, and then in summer you swap it, and then you enjoy the collection, the other half of the collection, for the remainder of the year. And because the collections, that's one thing that I often see is a big topic of conversation with homeowners. One may really enjoy it, but the other one may not.
Right.
Or if they have small children and that's something that they've been collecting before they got married and had kids, that now what do we do with the collection? Like, it needs to go up higher on the wall. Well, then, okay, now they may be getting to the age where they want to kick a ball inside the house. Well, now your collection is kind of going to be compromised if that ball hits it, you know, that kind of thing. So getting creative with how you can share different aspects and maybe even spread it around instead of having it all in one location. That to me starts feeling very heavy and overwhelming when it's all just in one spot behind a curio cabinet.
I was just gonna say that old fashioned curio cabinet that had all of the, you know, tchotchke things, as Mark always calls them, all the tchotchkes.
Right.
Interesting. That's interesting. So especially when you said about, you know, stuff you started collecting before you got married, I have a couple of collections that are actually still in boxes 20 years later that, you know, they just don't, my house, it's a Lindell cedar home. I basically live in a really big log cabin, interestingly, with a lot of windows, which gives me light. And they just they don't go here. And so I guess that's another piece. So, you know, what do you do with those things? Like, you know, as in a, you know, Feng Shui energy perspective, you know, does it make sense to keep those things wrapped up in a box somewhere?
State again how long you've been in the home.
20 years.
And when
20
was the
years
last,
and 6 months.
and when was the last time you opened the box?
20 years and nope, 21 years ago. Okay, I just answered my own question. Thank you. No, actually, so there's two of them. One of them I actually, and this made me be me just trying to hold on a little bit longer. It's actually a collection that I started when I was a kid. Maybe I was 10 or 11. And they're these little bears. It's called Hotel Teddington. And so I'm kind of waiting for my niece or my nephew to have a child. So I'll be like, oh, look, you can, you know, look at how cute this would be. A nice gift. I think that's what that's why I've been holding on to them.
Right. And
I don't know that they'll really want them.
So I had a client who had a collection of Disney figurines that she started collecting like when she was 8, when they went to Disney World or Disneyland the first time. And, you know, we came across them in a box and she was childless. And it seemed silly to her. But yet when she was touching them and holding them, I could see that there was this real genuine fondness and like, you know, oh, she's like, I remember this, you know, I got this when we went to the Cinderella's breakfast and my dad gave it to me. And it was wrapped up with really meaningful, really visceral memories. And so she had a big walk-in closet. So we just put a couple of shelves on the wall. And she says that she just adores them now. Literally, like maybe we put up 6 ledge, you know, 3-inch ledges behind the door. And every time she goes into her closet, they're there. And so she was so pleased that we didn't discount them. Like, you're a grown woman with, you know, that we honored them. So I think if it feeds your soul, it's important to honor it. Amy, yeah, collections can be so hard, right?
Yeah, and my thought for you, Denise, is because my mom did this to me when I was little. She started giving me bunny rabbits every Easter. And so by the time I got into college, I had this massive rabbit collection and the cabinet to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't ask for it.
Mm.
So keeping that part in mind, if you think that giving the pieces to somebody else along,
Right.
like trickling them in for them to take over this collection, it's a bit of an assumption.
definitely. Now that you said that, yeah.
But if you open them and you start looking at them more frequently, does it still have the same joy to you as it did 21 years ago? We do outgrow things.
Yeah.
That's kind of the other piece to that. And if it's something like, oh, I even remember my mom had a collection of bride and groom cake toppers. And it was, a collection. So keep that part in mind.
Did she marry often? Is there a story behind this, Amy?
No, she was only married twice. She was only married twice. That just popped into my head. I totally forgot about that. But she did not keep them moving from one house to the next. She started that collection after her first divorce. And then before moving to the second home, she got rid of that collection. So, understanding how there are things that you do outgrow and they're not necessary. But just, Denise, I would recommend you revisit them. Take out a few, open the box, take out a few, and then ask.
Mhm.
Ask if there's a family member that you feel would be interested in that. Ask them first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe it's time to see about selling them. That's always an option too.
That's true. That is true. One of the things that you just said about outgrowing things, and Celie, I want to bring this concept to you, because we talk about stuff we have outgrown in our closets.
Yeah.
Like the closet I have over here, that's until recently had business suits from
Right.
my corporate job that I left 21 years ago.
Yes.
Talk about that, if you would, like, the
So,
closet and the things that
yeah.
we're just hanging on to. And then Amy, I'd like to get, after that, I'd like to talk, kind of bring back that energy in the office thing to talk
Yeah.
about.
So I think that this is what we should all be looking at, especially now, our lives have changed so dramatically post-pandemic, right? So few people are going into offices. Offices are, even on the Hill, I live just outside of DC, are becoming so much more casual. People realize that you can be a powerful person in a hoodie, right? We've seen Mark Zuckerberg in his t-shirts. Like we understand it's not that you have to dress for the job that you want kind of concept, which when you were coming up, absolutely, Denise, you did it right. But I think it's so important to realize that it's okay to let go of those things and to come to those conclusions sooner than later. Because if you had gotten rid of those suits 17 years ago, somebody probably could have gotten some real use out of them. But now they're probably, even if they're classic, slightly outdated. They would need some tailoring. The fabrics might not be as breathable or washable. I know for myself, when I turned 50, the gift I gave myself was never to wear a heel again. I got rid of every high heel in my closet. I have very fancy flats that I wear to weddings and events and balls, but I don't wear any heels anymore. That was the gift I gave myself. So it's almost like, if you can think about it as a gift. So if you have clothes in your closet and you are no longer that size, give yourself the gift of not feeling guilty about it. We all grow and change, right? And I don't know anybody who's still the size they were in high school. And so give yourself that gift. Be kind to yourself. And also, I think, unless you are very, very economically challenged, chances are you can afford to purchase. If you ever got to that size again, you would want to reward yourself with new clothing, so I think it's a abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. So if you can be abundant for the world and let go of your collections and let go of your excess clothes and the entertaining things that you don't use, a great way to do it sometimes is school auctions, because they love to auction off artwork or a baseball card collection. And, if it's a charity you like, it's a wonderful way of donating directly. And then, I had a client who had a collection of baseball cards and was quite knowledgeable about it, gave it to a local charity with an addition of 1 hour of education. And I think it raised like $400.
Nice.
Because somebody else was like, oh, I'm curious. I want to learn more about baseball cards. It probably wasn't even the cards. It was the hour of education that he was willing to share. So that to me keeps energy going. So that's what I would say for all of those things that no longer serve the life you're living now, right? We say, remember the past, honor the past, plan for the future, but live in the present. And that really kind of sums it up.
I love that.
Seeley,
Yes.
I had another organizer friend once tell me this, and I as you were talking, I was like, oh, I should go back and try this again. In the closet, turning hangers around.
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you explain this better? Because I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Yes. So I just did a video on this, just switched over my clothes from winter to summer because I only have 3 foot of hanging space in my bedroom closet. So when I do this exercise, I put all of my clothes in my closet with the hangers backward on the rail. And I organize them by color, and it's all beautiful at the very start of the season. And then as I wear my clothing and wash it, and again, I don't own anything that needs to be dry cleaned, so it all goes in the wash, dry, come out. I just put it back on the left-hand side. So I'm always trying to dress from the right, from the things that I haven't worn yet. And then at the end of the season, I can easily see that I didn't wear, it's almost, this year, it was about a dozen garments out of maybe 60. So a fifth, but sometimes it's been like a good solid 1/3 to 2/3. And there's a reason why I didn't wear those clothes. There's a reason why I was re-wearing the other clothes. And I promised myself that I'll just donate them. If they are still, and this season, I mean, I didn't switch my clothes over till June. So if I really hadn't worn it in the last 8 months, there was a reason, and I just donated them all. So yeah, that's a fantastic way. And then in your drawers, what we'll sometimes do is get a bit of Soji tape or painter's tape. And, if you're file folding all of your graphic t-shirts or whatever, and just tape them shut. Again, if you take it out, wear it, stick it back in with no tape on it. But then at the end of, when you're clearing out that drawer, anything that still has tape on it, I've actually had a client who dated the tape, September 2022 or whatever. It times out. There's reasons why you're wearing the other stuff. You've grown out of it. So yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip.
I love it. I'm so excited. I have
Projects.
This is embarrassing. I have clothes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 closets. And some of them are, winter stuff here, a little bit of that.
And that's what I say. Like, somebody's like, well, I haven't, is it, if you haven't worn it in a year it goes? I'm like, no, because you might not have gone on a cruise for the last 5 years. But I have cruise wear, like things I only wear when we go on that kind of vacation, beach wear, right, city wear, so I recommend that those kind of specific things, it's like fan wear. I only go to a Nationals game once a season or a Commanders game. So I've got my fan wear. I've got like a little box with my jerseys and my foam finger. And when I get invited to a game, I've got my clear bag in there. I'm ready to go. I don't wear it doesn't come up very often, but I know where it is. It's organized. It has a home. So it's not like hanging around. Sure. My foam finger is not in my bedroom, mocking me. So yeah. So I'm not that strict, because I feel like, you've got your summer clothes, your winter clothes, your when, depending on your lifestyle, when I worked in New York City and was going to events and galas, I had a closet full of evening wear. And when I met my husband, he invited me to his like law firm prom, and he's like, "Oh, it's formal. I'm like, do you want me to wear subtle colors, bright color?" I'm like, I've got a closet full. Now, now I have three. But, if somebody invites me to something, or the most recent, somebody was like, "You could be the extra in a movie. I know you've got a flapper dress." I'm like, "Yes, I can. I could come and be an extra in your movie in my flapper dress."
I love it. I have a flapper vest, which is
Oh, there you go.
but it would work. Okay, awesome. This is so funny. So again, kind of talking, all of this kind of gets the energy moving in our homes. And so before we started, Amy and I had a conversation last week about my office, and she had mentioned earlier, people kind of walk around and show her. And so I showed her my office. I took photos, I did a video, I walked around. And for those people who are watching, who have been here, who are watching the replay, who know me, they know that my background is different. And so, Amy, I'd love for us to start talking about like the energy and the change that I've made here in my office, and how this is how I feel with this change.
So one of the things that your previous layout, you had your physical back to the door,
which is now over here on my left.
So one of the things that I wanted you to observe in this time frame between our conversations was, if somebody walked in to that door behind you, how would that make you feel? Like if you're really intently working and you're there and you're doing everything, and suddenly you hear somebody just like right behind you go, "Hi, Denise." What would your immediate reaction be?
Yeah. It would definitely startle me,
Exactly.
and it definitely would. It would be really uncomfortable. Like, probably, knowing me, I'd knock my tea all over the place. I drink tea all day long. So like that happens. The tea goes over. That would definitely be something that would be really uncomfortable. And interestingly, had actually happened once. My cleaners were here one day, and my door was ajar. Now they know, don't come in if the door's closed, they'll knock, but the door was ajar. And so she just kind of pushed it in and was like, "Hey," and scared the life out of me.
Right. So this is something that we call the power position, and you're not in 100% power position, but peripheral vision. So when you look out your left eye, you should be able to somewhat see your door, and you have awareness of the door. Yeah, exactly.
It moves the hair out of the face, then yes.
And so one of the things that I had asked you as well was, okay, so your fireplace, you've got this beautiful fireplace. It gives you kind of this backdrop behind you. And then there's the mantle. What do you have in your business that you might want to showcase?
Obviously, my books.
And from the elemental standpoint, so you've got fire. I had asked you to put something that was water oriented or a mirror.
Mirror. Oh, it's
glass.
Oh, wait a minute. But you know what?
Because it's
You're
reflecting.
right, it's glass. It's not a mirror.
Yeah, it's glass. And that's okay too. That's okay. I've been observing that. But I will say this, your clock has like watery, I can't totally see it in big picture, but it has more of a water feel to it. But glass is also another option. So when we think of water, it doesn't have to be like a water fountain or anything along those lines. But the idea of balancing out fire with water. But we don't want to put out the fire 100% because that gives us that energy. So from the standpoint of what you've done, it's beautiful. You have some wood elements with the mantle as well as the flowers that you have up there as well. So you've got a nice balance occurring. So the earthiness, the fire, the wood, the water. So good
And
job.
how does it feel? Is it feeling different, Denise?
It really does. It's given me a really different perspective. Like, so I have windows. This is the back wall. So all windows, but I would always just see this one window. Because that's really where my desk's at. But sitting this way, I get actually, like, I can see so much more. And so I can see the birds flying around, or the Bambi's here. We have a fawn who's living down here with her mama. And so I can see all of that. I can see the rest of my room. You know, when I moved this, at first I was like, well, this is going to be weird because, you know, the desk is long and the plugs, and how is this going to work? And I don't see the plugs. You know, I just see my room. And, you know, as we were talking before, I'm like, oh, I could do that. And, oh, I should move that to have not in the corner. And I'm actually enjoying the room, where I felt like I would come down here and it was my desk. I have my own space. Like, I even started to look the other day on Pinterest for, you know, kind of like CEO home office, you know, styling. Like, how do I do this? So it's really, it's kind of opened me up, you know, and I'm enjoying being down here. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was like, I was just at my desk. Now I'm in my room. Like, I feel like, you know, as big as our house is, this is my space. This is mine. You know, the guest bedroom, yeah, some of that stuff is mine, but it's the guest bedroom. You know, Mark has his office, which is the loft upstairs, and then, you know, the communal areas. But this is actually my space.
Fantastic. I love that.
And
Yeah.
taking ownership of that too, and not feeling like because you came into his home, not feeling like you didn't have your space. And that's an important piece of the conversation as well, because that's a very frequent conversation. And even over the last few years, how people have had to create home offices that they didn't know they needed and didn't know that how to incorporate that into their space. I know a lot of people took closets or pantries and made office spaces out of those. I had one, I've now gotten rid of it, but a desk that had doors on it that looked like a wardrobe that closed off. The chair would have to move out of the way in order for the doors to close easily. But for people who had to get creative with home office space, that's something else. And I want to say this to you as well, Denise, you pop off of that fireplace instead of having just too much open space behind you. So noticing how you feel in that perspective as well, because, you know, when you're on camera, you want to feel good. You don't want to feel like you blend in too much.
Well, interestingly, when I got dressed this morning, I actually had a tan jacket on. And when I sat down in front of the mirror, I went, oh no, that's not going to work. So that was interesting. I want to just bring Ginger into this. Hi, Ginger. Do you have any questions, comments for either Amy or C. Lee? Or just say hi? Oh, hold on. I've got you muted. Hold on. I don't know how
I
to.
think I'm unmuted now.
You are.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, hi, gals. I think this has been really great. I'm sorry I had to be late. I delivering a grandson to birthday parties and camps today, so my schedule is not my own. But I've really enjoyed you guys. I will say one thing I thought about, and that could be a whole nother suggestion. Well, I have two things actually, just to make a comment on regarding the office thing. You know, when people have to find office space when they didn't need it before, I think that's such a big deal, because we have a fairly modest 2,000-foot square house with 4 bedrooms, 2 up and 2 down. Well, all of a sudden, you know, my husband retired, so he needed a space and an office at home. And I already, being an entrepreneur, needed one and had taken one. So then we had 2. So then there went another bedroom. So I have a bedroom office, he has a bedroom office. So both our offices, bedrooms upstairs are like history, right? And then downstairs, we have 2 more bedrooms. And so, well, we had to sleep somewhere. So there went another one.
At least you're not sleeping
And
on the couch.
and then the other one, is kind of a spare bedroom, but it's a catch-all too for all kinds of things. So when you don't really have enough space, but you don't really have the wherewithal to really change houses at the moment, that's very challenging.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I will say, 10 years before that, we were launching children, right? We had 3 kids, and so we're launching children. Well, not only did they go to college, but then they kind of come back home for a little while. Then they get married, and then they live with you for maybe 3 months because they're looking for the right house.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of adjustments and flow along that. And then also when you start losing your parents, they pass away, then you get their things in your garage and in your boxes, and you have to figure out how to let go of those or do what with them. So I've experienced a lot of change and I've had to be so flexible and really develop even more. I think I kind of have the gift of hospitality, but there is a limit. Well, now I'm actually keeping my 2 grandchildren 3 days a week for the summer, and I'm loving it. But our house is multifunctional, kind of crowded, high activity. The door is open, everybody come in. Denise knows that I can learn to have better boundaries. I've taken some for tests and things, but yet I love all that people stuff. But I think it's applicable. I just wanted to mention those 2 situations.
Absolutely. I think you're right. All of this, all of us have to kind of figure out how to make this work for us. Would you say I'm correct, Amy or Celie?
Oh, absolutely. And hats off to you, Ginger, for doing that and being flexible, because there are people who, are keeping the bedrooms as shrines to their children. And, that's insane. And also like the whole guest bedroom thing. I was once told very early on by a real estate agent that to have a dedicated guest room, that you need to have somebody sleeping in there 10% of the year. So like 35 days of the year. Same thing with, she also said, to have a dedicated dining room, you need to be having 35 meals a year there. Or maybe it's better to switch that dining room to a playroom when your kids are young, or turn it into a home office. And I just love that. And that was something that really resonated with me, because when we bought our house, I insisted upon 3 bedrooms. We only had 1 child, because we lived in England, and when friends came, they would come for 2 or 3 weeks. I always had at least my guest room, filled 20% of the time a year at least. But we also do have it as a flex space. We put a desk in there, a 6-foot desk in there, so that when people come, they're working, they're like, what's the Wi-Fi passcode? So yeah, all of these spaces need to be flexible. And so I really appreciate that you shared that with us, and that you've done it, right? That you're living it. You are the example that I think a lot of people want to be.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say that. I have to tell you that sometimes I think it's an embarrassment if someone comes to the house and now I've got toys all over my family room and, in my living room. But I have the joyful joy of young lives playing there as well. And when my daughter got married, she got a lot of gifts. They had a beautiful wedding. Well, where did those gifts all go? Those gifts they took our whole basement for like 4 months, And I have had, just to show you the difference in people, I had one lady one time come in my home for something. She didn't know me real well, but she kind of gave me a look like, what is all this? There's toys all over your living room, and it looks like you got some furniture downstairs you don't need. But it was kind of her attitude, and she was very nice. but she made me feel uncomfortable. And I
In your
said,
own home.
you know, right now, I said, what you're pointing out is actually the joys of my life. My daughter's wedding gifts are all down there, and my grandchildren's toys are here because they play here. But it's amazing how we can bring judgment, and I think this is another big topic, onto ourselves for decisions we make, but also receive judgment and not know how to handle it. So there's so many subjects here. I love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Ginger. Thank you for sharing. Well, ladies, Amy and Seeley, we're at that time where we need to wrap up. So I'd like for each of you to let us know, kind of what that, last, parting comments to our audience, but also let us know where people can find you. Seeley, please.
So I guess my biggest thing that to reiterate, to honor the past, plan for the future, but live for today. And so, that means if those clothes aren't your size, if you don't care for that collection, then I give you permission to let it go. And sometimes that's all it takes, is somebody giving you permission. So you have my permission. So I'm Cawley Cawley. You can find me at cleecawley.com. That's CLEECAWLEY.com. I do have a great free handout that I'd love for people to grab. It's 12 types of papers to toss today. My mission is to help people around the world clear their paper clutter and their overwhelm and get some clarity in their minds as well as in their offices. So this is a great way to start, knowing how to toss those 12 types of paper. I call it the dirty dozen. So that might be helpful for your listeners, Denise, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you so much, Seeley. This has been a lot of fun. Miss Amy.
Yes. So one of the biggest things is that if you have experienced a shift in your life, or if you've had guests come over who haven't quite left their happiness in your space, maybe it's time to do a little clearing, a little space clearing. And so one of the things that we talked about earlier was just clapping. So spreading that joy from yourself, and maybe a dance party if that feels right. Turn on your favorite music and just move around your space and into the corners, not just out in the middle of the room, but go around the space as much as you can and into the corners. Make noise. If you have drums, you can use those. If you have, our hands are the easiest ones to do. You can get out a couple of wooden spoons if you need to. Make some noise. Sometimes we have to break up that energy, and I find that sound is one of those greatest, easiest ways to do that. My name's Amy Stevens, and one of my aspects of life is helping people get more comfortable in their spaces. And the best way to reach out to me is through my website, which is my name. It's AMYSTEPHENS, and then it's a .net. So that's a great way to get a hold of me there as well.
Thank you. And I'll make sure all of this information is in the show notes when we take this and post up on YouTube. Amy, Seeley, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your tips and strategies. This has been a lot of fun. Ginger, thank you for being here with us today and sharing with us. For those of you who are watching the replay, again, I'm Denise Stegall, your host here at Meaningful Conversations, and you can always find me at livinghealthylist.com. And in the show notes, you'll also find a link to the first 3 chapters, not 1, but 3 chapters of my book, the yellow one back there, look, wrong way, Healthy Living, Happy Life, a practical path to finding a healthy lifestyle that works for you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.